name is Diego Perra. I've been with Princess for the last 20 years, captain for the last 5, and on the Grand Princess for the last just over 2 years. To do the transit of the Columbia River. It's about 9 hours. We have the first pilot at the bar, and he goes with us up to about Astoria. And then we have the Columbia River pilots all the way up to Portland. It's very deep river, quite safe. Weather conditions were okay. And then just outside of the yard, we had 4 tugs waiting for us. And in collaboration between us, the river pilot, and the dock master, we put the ship inside.
We're sitting on basically probably about 120 concrete blocks with pieces of timber on them, and that's what we're resting on. And what they do is they get a survey of the ship, and they set the blocks in place, and then they fill the dock with water, and the ship comes in.
And my name is Vincenzo Pigna. I'm the staff captain on board the Grand Princess since last year, and we managed to finish the dry dock, another one, bust the dust.
My name's Lee, and I'm the entertainment director on board. Dry dock is a very, very important time for the ships. It's the time when we can get all those things done that we couldn't do while we are in normal service.
A dry dock is when a ship reaches like a few years into its service, and it needs some work doing to it. So they'll bring a ship in a dry dock, and they'll float it in, and they'll drop it down on some nice concrete blocks, and then check it, drain the dock out, and clean the dock down, and then the work starts.
All you got to understand is that the ship is a construction site. If you, for instance, if you have your house and you want to knock down walls and build new walls and do all sorts of your house, you know what kind of a mess it is. So really, that's what we prepare for. We prepare for something out of the extraordinary. Sometimes there's no water, sometimes no electricity. So that's what we have to prepare for.
My name is Monica. I'm as a hotel coordinator. At the moment, my job is actually help coordinate the jobs between contractors and the hotel department, especially cabin accommodation and everything else. I come to the ships slightly earlier and I work before to actually try to accommodate all the contractors and working crew on the cabins available without as much disruption, unfortunately, as it's always done.
Hi, my name is Andy, and we're from Vancouver in Victoria, in Canada, and we're here doing the canine sweep for the ship at the end of a dry dock. They're Springer Spaniels, although we've got in our team, we've probably got 19 different dogs, so we've got Labradors, Belgian Malinois, Springer Spaniels, German Shepherds, but the Springer Spaniels are my favorite. So the training in, for example, explosives, you usually start on black powder, and the training in narcotics, you used to start on marijuana when it was illegal everywhere. So you usually put that odor somewhere, and you get the dog to sniff it, and then you get the dog to sit down. And most dogs know how to sit down already, and then you start rewarding them. And then you start hiding that scent in different places. And then the dog starts figuring out, hey, this is a fun game to play. So on these ships, now this ship is a whole playground for the dog to find these things out. It depends on which contraband you're finding. So if there's different things, if you're finding an explosive, that's a whole different realm of who has to be informed for explosives. That means a lot more insecurity. And if you're finding narcotics, then that's a different group of police or authorities that get informed on that one.
Biggest roles for especially the staff on board is key running. You know, we have many staterooms on board the Grand Princess, and some carpets need to be done, some baths need to be done, the balconies need to be done. So the contractors need to get into those cabins.
My name is Malcolm Peterson. I'm the Customer Service Director on the Grand Princess. Welcome to the dry dock. During dry dock, my basic functions is coordinate the check-in for the contractors inside the terminal, making sure everybody got the valid passports, visa, and coordinate everything. Once the contractor is on board, my areas is then the revenue departments, assisting the revenue departments with all the work that is happening in that Pacific area. We also have here the key runner sections here, which we have an early shift and an afternoon shift, and we have per shift around about 25 staff members from all the revenue departments, entertainment department, photos, all those revenue departments. They work from 7 o'clock in the morning till about 1 o'clock, and then 1 o'clock till 7 o'clock. Sometimes they work till 9 o'clock, depending on the workload.
It's the same way as the passengers. We just ask the contractors come slightly earlier because the ship is leaving the port earlier than usual, and they go the same procedures. They go to the check-in as all the passengers, and the passports need to be collected as for the passengers, but it depends on the country, and they just go to the ships through the security as everybody else.
Where you will go in the two groups of you, you'll go downstairs and you wait until a contractor comes down and asks for you to go to open a cabin. So we get a key and we'll open the cabins, we'll wait there until all the work is done, and then we'll go off. Sometimes you're out all day with one contractor if they're going from cabin to cabin to cabin to cabin.
Station right over here, and during the day we get various contractors coming down to access cabins, guest cabins or crew cabins. So basically most of them are not occupied. Luckily, however, if they are, we just need to be there and make sure that everything is safe and, you know, reporting damages as such.
And normally they'll scrape the hull, clean and paint the hull. They'll do the white work around the ship. They'll make our Princess logo look even prettier. And then the work starts sometimes in the engine room, sometimes on the thrusters, propellers. They normally get an overhaul, engines get an overhaul. And then there's a lot of work goes inside the ship as well. So soft furnishings, carpets, couches, all those sort of things happen inside the ship.
Of course, having on board so many people, I mean, we had almost 1,300 contractors. The major concern is, of course, to make sure that the ship doesn't catch on fire.
There's fire watch, quite simply that's what it says. It's a fire watch. If there's any welding to be done, there's one team member there with a hose pipe just making sure that nothing out of the extraordinary goes off. And we have that. We have garbage. The guys literally 24 hours going around the ship picking up garbage all over the ship. So, as well as even the galley. You know, for this dry dock, the galley has been out of service. Deck 5 galley's been out of service. They've only had to use deck 6 galley. So they're still cooking, and they're still cooking in this kind of environment which they're not so used to. So it's kind of tough for most of the crew members on board the ship.
I'm basically in charge for the deck department. As you know, there are 3 head of department on board. The chief technical officer, which is in charge for all the technical part of the ship. Then we have the hotel general manager and the staff captain. Staff captain is in charge for all deck and general the maintenance and the safety and security of the ship. Meanwhile, you know, the AGM is in charge for all the hotel department, which is the biggest department on the ship.
Of course, we still have to feed people. We have something like, at the peak, about 1,260 contractors and around about 1,000 crew members, which still need feeding. So again, it takes people out of their comfort zones because the crew mess and those areas are being refurbished. We brought the crew into the dining room. So we've had to squeeze because our Horizon Court was out of action, our crew galley and deck 5 galley was out of action, so everything came from deck 6.
Literally we have A-pass and ship start, they have to match, because every evening I have to actually do the full account. I have to deactivate all the contractors who leave because we collect their passports, which means for me accountability 100% of the contractors is to have a passports with us, which means this one I know. I have 700 passports, I have 700 contractors on board. When they disembark, they will pay their account, they will collect the passports, and I clear the account, which means I have accounts of the cabins, which should supposed to be empty, that's the fun part. And this one's going to accommodation, which means they have a chance to prepare them in case someone else is coming in, or I need to use the cabin due to the flood or any other issues, or they can be actually told us, yes, these cabins are empty, and they can be empty until passengers coming back and so on.
The main concern, consider that we had through these 10 days almost over 1,000 permits to work. So all the time our job is completed on board, like welding, removing panels, or it can be like working on a high or so on. Every job, let's say, that is quite dangerous, it needs to be back supported by paperwork, including the permit to work, where basically we go through all the procedure, all the things we have to go in order to minimize the risk that something bad can happen. And we had almost 1,000 of these, so quite a big number.
But if you want to call it a benefit, a lot of people think, oh, you enjoy that, you're going to get off and enjoy yourself. You can, to a certain extent, but your primary role is to be on the ship. You know, your primary role is to do your job on the ship. So there's benefits you can eat. The food they can eat in the Botticelli dining room, yeah, we can still go to our bar areas, and you can still get off the ship. So we're here in Portland, so once your work is done, you may get off the ship and go out and enjoy yourself in the town of Portland.
Pool and complex up there, which looks really lovely, and then they'll see new chairs and new tables up there as opposed to the raffia ones that we used to have. We still got more things to come, so we can't produce everything. So for instance, our Explorers Lounge was the fabrication workshop, so everything was taken there to be refurbished. When they walk in the theatre, it's been refurbished. New chairs, new chair covers, new carpets, new sound system. You know, completely new thing that's gone in there. So the guest will see changes. They won't see a brand new ship, but they'll certainly see a lot of changes compared to how the Grand was looking before. And I say, there's still more to come. There's still more furnishings to come on board over the next couple of months. There'll still be more things arriving. Even the crew get new chairs and their crew mess, so still new things for everybody.
mean, I was so lucky to do the inaugural cruise on the Caribbean Princess with the Medallion. The biggest thing the ship is going through in dry dock is the infrastructure of the Medallion, which is literally, in layman's terms, a little round quarter that could revolutionise not just the cruise industry, but the whole of the hospitality industry. Picture this, you're sitting in the wheelhouse bar and you want a drink. You pick up your phone, you go onto your Medallion and you order your drink, and that drink will come to you at your seat. That's what Medallion's all about. This is something that's going to totally revolutionise, make it easier, seamless to get on the ship. You know, if you book a Medallion class ship, you get a little box at home with your Medallion, everything in there. You go on the internet, you put your passport, your face picture, whatever you want to do. And as soon as you get to the ship, you walk straight on the ship. None of this waiting around to get your passport checked. It's all done. You walk onto the ship, you'll ping yourself on, and away you go. Even going to the bars, there's no need to pull out your cruise card. You know, you'll just go to the bar, you just tap your Medallion on there. Your door will open, not by itself, mind you. You have to go to the door and unlock by itself, but you will have to open it. Well, this is the biggest job they're doing right about now. This is taking 18 days and then a lot more days as soon as we go up, so we get out of dry dock. So they have to put the wire in, miles and miles and miles of wiring, brand new televisions in every stateroom. When you get to your stateroom, you'll see a little iPad thing on your door. That's going on every stateroom. Around the ship, you're going to see all these portals, which will become live once we become Medallion. These portholes where you can find out where your partner is. It's absolutely brilliant. If you and your partner have a Medallion and your partner says they're going to the casino and they're going to the bar, you can find out where they are. This is absolutely amazing. So all these things are happening here on board Grand Princess. 18 days to get all this infrastructure in, but once we go Medallion class, which is probably going to be next year, not this year, next year, it's going to be absolutely amazing. On top of that, we're going to have the fastest and the most reliable internet on the 7 seas, Medallion Net.
Ship. I was painting since we came here, so around 6-7 days.
Was to take care of the ship side. We water blast the ship side, and then they applied a new primer, a new coat, and around the ship, as you notice, they start to replace carpet in order to make it more fancy, and pipes, replacing old pipes.
First it was removing the algae from the ship. So by the water blast, and it was removing all this rust, and it was brushing, and they was putting one coat of primer. second coat of primer, then white color and new overcoat. Always you need to check what they are doing because sometimes they miss some sparks and some spots, so you need to remind them and telling them, okay, do this part. That was the challenging because so many people are working here and you don't know who is in charge of what, so always you are searching around.
Massive. You got sometimes there's no water. You know, sometimes it's just cold water and hot water. The electricity goes out in and out all the time. There's lots of banging, lots of noise. It is a construction. This whole place is just a construction site.
And that's one aspect. Then of course a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of work in the machinery spaces, from ballast systems to water treatment systems that have been upgraded. Also the air quality control systems that were called scrubbers before. As you know, the company is moving strongly towards greener operating systems.
We got a sale, you know, the 20th and 21st when we get back to San Francisco. So we've got a sale on that day. So there's enormous pressure, especially the contractors, an enormous pressure to do the job before we sail.
Then when you look around the dining room, you know, there's plastic everywhere. There's plastic on the carpet. All that has to come off. And then towards the end of the dry dock, then we have to put this place back together again, because then when we come into San Francisco, we have our guests coming back. So yeah, highlight, certainly the chef dancing on the open deck. Other highlight, seeing how the marble came up and the time and the care and attention these guys were doing to get the marble back to an immaculate condition. To see it cracked and broken and then come back to brand new was amazing to see the guys how they do it, and they worked tirelessly and did a fantastic job.
Stage is huge again, you know. As soon as we leave the dry dock, everyone's hands to deck. Everybody, no matter who you are, you got a brush in your hand, you got polish in your hand, you're cleaning here, you're cleaning there. And we always take out areas like the entertainment team will do the Vista Lounge, the theatre, the Explorers Lounge, and you'll get there and you literally have to polish and clean every single thing. As you can imagine, so much dust is going on. You got to go in every nook and cranny and clean and scrape and just make sure everything's spick and span. Because this ship has to be ready by at least 11 o'clock on the day in San Francisco for passengers to come on.
Good afternoon. We are inside the yard. We finalizing the last jobs on the chain, and we also had an inspection around the hull just to make sure that all the bolts are in position. The plan is for tomorrow morning, early morning, to bring the water up to the 5 meters mark.
The yard is quite a dangerous place for who doesn't know what is happening. So normally no one is allowed to go down, but we decided it was a good idea to arrange for the crew to have a chance to have a walk around, and it's not often you have a chance to see your ship from underneath, and it also gives you a different perspective on how big the ship is, you know, from the size of the propellers to the size of the rudders. Is always a big impact on everybody when they go down for the first time. Well, we don't offer the tour to the passengers yet.
And again, just because we're in dry dock, we still have to be environmentally friendly, and even tighter restrictions up here in Portland. So anything that's classed as food contact, could be a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, is classed as food contact. And so they have to go into a separate container compared to our regular dry garbage.
So you'll see a lot of crew walking around, maybe not in uniforms, but and especially this particular one being in Portland, it wasn't a hot one. As in fact, it was just the opposite. The average temperature in Portland was 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which basically meant that if the AC went off or the heater went off, basically you'll see a lot of people bundled up in their scarves and they're basically in their gloves and walking around the ship. So it's a very interesting experience as far as conditions for the crew.
If you watch this DVD, you'll see the state of the ship. You'll see, I mean, we're going to go around and show exactly what happens, how this dry dock works. You know, it's an absolute mess. But when you walk on this ship, come San Francisco, you'll see it is gleaming and it is clean. It's a better ship for it, you know. It's going to be purring like a friendly cat.
So there is an inspection of the ship, including all the plugs that we remove for inspection of tanks. So we make sure that the watertight integrity of the ship has been restored. Of course, we check the quality of the paint job and all the jobs that the shipyard complete. And then when everybody's happy, they start to lower the dock and bring the ship to a condition that she's still sitting on the blocks, but the water is already reaching all the water inlets that we need to use for the normal operation of the ship. So the ship stays in that position for several hours, and during those hours main engines are tested, the AC air compressors for air conditioning are tested. So pretty much we test everything, and because the ship is almost at the normal floating position, we have a full inspection internally of the hull to see if there are any leaks, because a lot of valves have been changed, a lot of pipes have been changed. So once the technical team completes that part of the inspection, we give the okay to the dock master, and they complete to lower the dock so the ship comes off the blocks and she floats freely. And at that stage we are tied up with lines to the yard, so they make sure we stay in the center. We test briefly propulsion, rudders and thrusters, and then we have a tug. In this case we're bow out, so we had a tug fast forward and slowly started to pull us outside of the yard at half a knot of speed, so very slowly. The maneuver was discussed with a dock master. It was called zero contact maneuver, meaning because we just did all the paint work, we didn't want to scratch it, just leave in the yard. So it's called, technically it's called the zero contact maneuver. So everything is done to ensure the ship will come out without scratching anywhere on the yard. And that took about 45 minutes. And then we had to stay, we had more tugs to assist us. And we stayed in front of the yard for another 3 hours doing other tests from, because we changed some of the thrusters controls, so they had to do a full test of that. And then we also changed, we have an upgraded system for the stabilizers controls, and so they had to extend the fins and check the functionality of the system. And today we will test how the system works. So we'll be forcing the ship to list from side to side, and then we'll see how the system works. So that hopefully this is going to be one of the final tests post dry dock.
We have got a great team here, all right, and although the Grand is an old lady, she's 21 years old, bless her, she's still a lovely ship, and she's still got a great heart, and it's testament to the crew, what I call the fleshy bits, that we provide the service and the care and the attention that this ship is doing so well. I don't know if you're aware, we're actually number 2 in the fleet for our scores at the moment. So the ship is doing exceptionally well. So watching that chef dance around like a kid up on the open deck, catching snowflakes on his tongue and in his hands was amazing, right? It was lovely to see. And you see little subtle things, you know, you see the way that the crew interact with each other. The fact that I can say to Steve, the food and beverage director, has been pulled all over the place, this dry dock, and he can say to Joachim, our maitre d', Joachim, we need 15 guys, you know, to do this. And his response, when do you want them and where do you want them? All right. Now, those sort of things are amazing, that out of nowhere you can pull a rabbit out of a hat and give 15 guys. So compared to when we first started the dry dock with the original schedules that we have, the dining room provided an extra 62 people to other areas outside the dining room, whether they're sweeping garbage up in the corridors for the housekeeping department, or they're running the blue burger tiles for the staff captain up and down the stairs, or they're helping with extra duties for fire watch and fire patrol. The dining room, I can't say enough about how well the dining room, and particularly the maitre d', Joachim, has been so good during this dry dock.
It's my 5th dry dock in 19 years with Princess. Looking forward for a few more. before retirement. And I just want to say thanks to all the crew of the Grand Princess, because behind this successful dry dock there are all of them. They are actually the ones that pulled this miracle out, and they are still out there trying to finish this miracle.
The technical aspect is always interesting, professionally challenging at times, but as captain, I think what really impressed me was the attitude of the crew and this spirit of being all part of the same team. And all in a sudden, there are no uniforms, so there are a lot of boiler suits around, people going around with their own clothes, and yet you can feel there is this common focus on achieving the result of having the ship done. And so the spa team had to do some cleaning, or some of the entertainment department did something completely different of what they normally do. And I think it's also a nice experience for the crew. Clearly there is some discomfort, no water time, no air conditioning other times. But it's also interesting to have the possibility, first of all, to go around the ship completely free and explore areas of the ship that the crew normally doesn't see. And have the chance to work with other departments that maybe you don't work with most of the time. But again, as captain, I think it's really rewarding to see the teamwork. The teamwork is something that makes things possible, and I only have to be thankful for the work of the crew, the patience, and the commitment to the task. I mean, if you had to look at the ship just 24 hours before coming out of dry dock, a lot of guys were concerned, so we're not gonna make it. But we did it, and everybody was, working, cleaning, removing garbage from every corner around the ship, and so well done to the crew for sure.